love you. We appreciate you. And babes, we hope you have an amazing fucking day.
Yes. Welcome back to the absolute chaos.
Welcome back to the Snark site. You are officially hanging out with us for what is going to be just a monumental unpacking of financial chaos, messy confessions, and the literal destruction of the nuclear family.
It is a lot to process today. I have my notes color-coded, and I am still overwhelmed.
I am practically vibrating with rage, but before we get into the shy, I need to get this off my chest immediately. This sangria is absolutely out tonight.
It is poor. It is medicinal at this point in the week.
It is my entire personality right now. Because, babes, you have to explain to me, why is it freezing in May?
It is a complete meteorological betrayal.
I am taking it so personally. It is May 14th, 2026. The calendar says spring. Okay. My mindset is fully in summer mode. I am ready for rooftop energy, and the thermometer is giving me this, like, deeply offensive November reality check.
You look out the window, and the sun is allegedly shining, right? The sky is blue. But it's a trap. It is a fraudulent, fake spring.
It is. It emotionally betrayed me. I spent, like, 45 minutes curating the perfect warm weather outfit today. Open-toed shoes, a light, breezy silhouette. I step outside the apartment building, and I am instantly shivering.
It's structurally incorrect. You step outside, and the wind just slaps you across the face for having the audacity to wear linen.
Literally slapping me. Everyone collectively decided it was summer, and the weather just forgot to read the group chat.
I try to remain rational about these things, just looking at the jet stream and late-season cold fronts. But secretly,
Yeah.
I am furious. I am seething. I had to pull a heavy wool coat back out of the closet today.
No, I saw you walk in with that coat, and I actually gasped. It violates the social contract of the seasons.
It does, but, the sangria does not care about the ambient temperature. It is our liquid sunshine tonight.
Exactly. We are manifesting warmth through fruit-infused wine and pure delusion, which, speaking of delusion, to you, our favorite member of the Snark Squad listening right now, we have a massive crisis.
A total deadlock. It's completely stalling our plans for the rest of the evening.
We are trapped in a dinner debate of epic proportions, and we need you to weigh in the comments immediately.
We've been arguing about this for an hour before we even turn the microphones on. It's an absolute culinary filibuster.
It is Italian food versus Mexican food. And I am sorry, but there is only one correct answer when you need to heal your soul from a freezing fake spring day, and that is Mexican food.
I strongly object to this emotional reasoning.
Just let me paint the picture. The immediate, aggressive delivery of warm, salty chips and fresh, acidic salsa before you even look at a menu, it is a literal hug for your nervous system.
It's a temporary stimulant at best.
It is healing. Add in a margarita the size of a bird bath, loaded with tequila and a salt rim, and a plate of sizzling tacos. You are actively repairing emotional damage at a cellular level.
I am treating this debate like a courtroom trial, okay?
Yeah.
Because the physiological facts clearly point to Italian cuisine being the superior choice for weather-induced trauma.
Oh, here we go with the facts.
Let's examine the evidence. Pasta. Specifically, the sheer unmatched density of an emotional support carb coma.
But tacos have carbs.
A lightweight taco shell does not provide the same structural integrity to a fragile psyche as a massive steaming bowl of rigatoni bathed in garlic, butter, and heavy cream. It just doesn't.
But the vibrant energy. Mexican food is a celebration. It says, like, hey, your day was garbage, the wind hurt your face, but let's party and forget about it.
Right. And Italian food says, hey, your day was garbage, go to sleep for 14 uninterrupted hours.
Which is so boring.
That is precisely the goal. A garlic bread-induced hibernation is the only logical biological response to a fake spring. You want to feel energized by citrus, and I want to feel anesthetized by melted mozzarella.
I mean, I guess I understand wanting to be sedated today, but you guys have to tell us what side you're on. Are you Team Italian or Team Mexican tonight?
Which one fits your personality more? Because right now, our dinner plans remain completely unresolved.
Which has led to a highly dangerous compromise on our end.
Catastrophically dangerous. Because we couldn't decide on an actual meal, we are currently housing an entire family-sized bag of Werther's original caramel popcorn. We are fully in our 30s snack spiral right now.
It's a real demographic shift.
There is something so concerning about how fast you become a quote-unquote snack person the second you hit your 30s. And we are completely bypassing the bright neon sour candies of our youth and going straight for the elite old person candies.
That's how it matures. Suddenly you realize that Werther's the candy you previously associated exclusively with the bottom of a dusty purse secretly slaps.
It slaps so hard. The caramel to popcorn ratio on this specific snack is just incredible. It perfectly balances the sweet and the salty.
Which, chemically speaking, is the only flavor profile that lights up the pleasure centers in the adult brain anymore.
It is dangerously addictive. It's the emotional comfort of the popcorn crunch, but then you get that rich, buttery caramel. And there is that terrifying phenomenon, you know the one, where you tell yourself, okay, I'm just going to have one handful.
The illusion of portion control. Exactly. It's just one handful to take the edge off. And then you blink, the bag is completely empty, you're covered in sticky crumbs, and you're questioning every life choice.
Popcorn feels texturally light, so your brain doesn't register the caloric reality until you've inhaled the equivalent of a 3-course meal in caramel glaze.
Well, speaking of questionable life choices and masking our mistakes, it is time for our favorite segment.
Oh, the submissions this week.
You babes have been absolutely living for the submissions lately, and the Snark Squad continues to prove week after week that you are deeply, deeply messy people.
The level of chaos in the inbox requires serious, dedicated analysis.
Honestly, I am entirely here for it. So we have 3 listener confessions tonight. We are going to break them down and deliver a verdict for each one. Was the listener shady, snarky, or stupid?
Let's hear the first one.
Okay, let me pull it up. It says, I secretly opened a high-yield credit card in my own name just to fund luxury vacations with my incredibly wealthy partner.
Oh, no. Oh, no, no, no.
Wait, it gets worse. I don't want to look poor next to them or their friends. Now I am $20,000 in debt, the relationship is rocky, and they have no idea.
The financial math on this is causing me acute physical pain.
$20,000.
A high-yield credit card. Do you understand the interest rates we are talking about in today's economy? That is anywhere from 24 to 29% annual percentage rate.
I would simply pass out.
You are compounding your own financial ruin every single month just to cosplay as a rich person.
The emotional stress of having to fake it on like a super yacht or at a 5-star resort while knowing your minimum payment is due, and that minimum payment is barely covering the interest.
It's fiscal sabotage.
I cannot even imagine looking at a plate of caviar while secretly calculating how many months of rent it equates to in my real life.
Yeah.
I would throw up.
It is a fascinating sociological phenomenon, though. The pressure of wealth disparity in intimate relationships causes profound cognitive dissonance. You want to be seen as an equal.
Yeah, but push back on that for a second. Have you ever been in a room with actual generational wealth? The unspoken judgment is palpable.
Sure, the pressure is real.
It's not just paying for the vacation, it's the clothes you wear to the dinner, the luggage you bring, the casual suggestion to just split a cab that turns into a $500 helicopter ride.
Right, but the execution is flawed. The moment you start hiding $20,000 of debt, you are no longer in a partnership. You are managing a crisis PR campaign against your own boyfriend.
That is so true. The anxiety of the lie has to be heavier than the anxiety of just being perceived as working class.
If your partner is genuinely wealthy, they either don't care about your income or they are a terrible person who expects you to keep up without subsidizing the lifestyle. So what is our verdict?
It has to be stupid. I'm sorry, babe, I love you, but going into high-interest debt to impress someone else's friends who wouldn't even remember your last name if you broke up tomorrow is profoundly stupid.
Unanimous. It is mathematically and strategically stupid. Let's hear the second one. I am bracing myself.
Okay, confession 2. Family drama coded. My mother-in-law announced 2 weeks before our wedding that she was wearing a white, lacy, floor-length gown.
An unprovoked act of war.
Literally. So the listener says, at the reception, I paid a teenage cater waiter $100 cash to accidentally spill a full pitcher of deep red sangria directly onto her lap during the cocktail hour.
Wait, I need to clarify the volume here. A full pitcher.
A full pitcher of deep red sangria on white lace.
The tactical precision of that operation is breathtaking.
I am genuinely gasping because, okay, a mother-in-law wearing a white lacy gown to your wedding is a deliberate challenge to the bride's authority. She fired the first shot.
Oh, absolutely.
You are completely within your emotional rights to retaliate. But a $100 hit job, that is mafia behavior.
Let's analyze the risk matrix here. Using a teenage waiter as a mercenary provides absolute plausible deniability.
True, but the teenager was a wild card.
Exactly. The kid could have folded under pressure when the mother-in-law inevitably started screaming. He could have confessed that the bride paid him off.
Could you imagine the drama if he flipped?
But assuming the kid kept his mouth shut, And for $100 cash, most teenagers would take that secret to the grave. It's a perfectly executed covert operation.
The mother-in-law just looks like the tragic victim of a clumsy accident. She is forcibly required to change out of the offensive garment to avoid looking like a crime scene.
And the bride maintains entirely clean hands.
But is it pure snark, or is it deeply shady? Because snark is usually verbal, maybe a pointed comment during a toast. This involved premeditation and minor property damage.
I'm going to rule it shady, but with accommodation for strategic brilliance. It's undeniably a shadow operation. It involves bribery and the intentional destruction of property.
Glorious, deeply justified property damage.
But shady nonetheless. It takes a very specific type of cold-blooded pragmatism to smile at your mother-in-law while knowing a pitcher of red wine is currently locked onto her coordinates.
I fully agree. Deeply shady, but we respect the hustle. We respect women defending their boundaries by any means necessary. Okay, final confession.
Let's have it.
I was fuming about my boss coming into the office with a tacky, new money designer bag. I recorded a 3-minute voice memo trash-talking her to my best friend, but my thumb slipped and I sent it directly to the boss.
A 3-minute voice memo.
3 minutes. I panicked, threw my actual iPhone into a literal lake, didn't show up for work the next day, and tried to claim a targeted hacker stole my identity.
You threw a $1,000 piece of advanced technology into a body of water to avoid an awkward HR conversation.
The sheer panic. I feel the secondhand embarrassment radiating through my bones. A 3-minute voice memo is an eternity.
That is a detailed, itemized, thesis-level roast of this woman's aesthetic choices.
And then the commitment to the bit. Driving to a body of water, physically hurling the phone, and claiming a targeted hack.
It's the escalation of the lie that fascinates me. The initial mistake, the fat finger text send, is just an unfortunate accident of the digital age.
It happens to the best of us.
But the cover-up is a federal offense of absurdity. Think about the logistics here. You are claiming a sophisticated hacker bypassed your biometric security, infiltrated your messaging app, and perfectly synthesized your exact vocal cadence just to cyberbully your boss.
Over a bag.
It makes zero logical sense. The digital footprint alone would destroy this alibi instantly.
And what was the end game? You still don't have a phone. You still have to face her eventually. Obviously, the verdict is stupid.
It's so chaotic, it's almost performance art. Definitely stupid.
Please keep these coming, the Snark Squad. You are the most unhinged people on the internet, and we adore unpacking your minds. But grab your emotional support carbs, pull that Werther's popcorn close because we have to transition to the actual show.
Yes. It is time to dissect Episode 7 of Margo's Got Money Troubles.
Season 1, Episode 7, titled Lariat Takedown. And frankly, takedown is the only appropriate word for the systemic dismantling we witnessed in this hour of television.
It was harrowing. The emotional, legal, and psychological warfare in this episode was staggering.
We are avid fans. We have been covering the show since the pilot, and I was physically shaking watching this. I need to know all your thoughts because this family just imploded on every conceivable level.
The episode opens by establishing the sheer, brutal reality of the legal system, specifically family court. Margo, Shyanne, and Jinx are sitting in the office of Lace, Margo's attorney.
Played by Nicole Kidman, who is giving us incredible, icy pragmatism.
Yes, and they are facing the reality of Mark filing for full, exclusive custody of baby Bodhi.
And Shyanne, bless her, comes in so hot. She is just swearing, pacing the room, dropping expletives, ready to burn Mark's entire life to the ground.
She is reacting purely on primal protective emotion.
Which I deeply relate to. But Lace has to lay out the actual legal mechanics of what they are facing, and the options are just bleak.
Let's break down the options Lace provides, because it's a perfect, terrifying encapsulation of how the justice system treats the working class versus the wealthy. Option 1. Just give Mark 50-50 custody and concede the fight. Unacceptable to Margo, obviously. Option 2. A direct countersuit in open court. But Lace spells it out with ruthless clarity.
A trial means depositions, expert witnesses, and a battle that will cost tens of thousands of dollars. Money that Margo simply does not have.
Which leaves option 3, mediation. It's the cheaper, faster route, heavily favored by courts to clear clogged dockets.
But this is where Margo's sheer delusion really shows. Or maybe just her 20-year-old naivety, She sits there and actually says, he's just bluffing. He doesn't even care about Bodhi. He ignored him for months.
And Lace has to look at her and say, he is not bluffing.
Because why would he be bluffing?
We have to look at Mark's psychology analytically here. The man just blew up his entire life. His prestigious career as a professor is over due to the scandal. His marriage is destroyed.
He has faced massive public humiliation.
He has nothing left to lose and everything to prove to his mother, Elizabeth, who is funding this entire crusade. He's playing for keeps, and he's backed by country club wealth.
The threat of financial ruin is a tactical weapon they are pointing directly at Margo. But hold on, doesn't the mediator or the judge see through that? If a guy ignores his kid for a year, then suddenly files for full custody the minute his life falls apart, isn't it obvious it's vindictive?
In an ideal world, yes. But family court often operates on paper trails, not moral intuition. Mark's lawyers will spin the narrative that he was prevented from being a father, or that his recent life changes gave him a newfound clarity to step up.
Ugh, that makes me so sick.
Which leads us to the showdown, the actual mediation room itself.
It's just Margo, Mark, their lawyers, and the mediator. And the mediator asks Mark what his goal is.
Mark, without missing a single beat, says he wants full custody because Margo is an unfit mother. And he bases this on 3 things, and my blood was absolutely boiling during this scene.
Let's examine his arguments. Because as much as he is a reprehensible human being, legally, his strategy is brutally effective. Point 1, financial instability.
Margo has previously asked him for money, which establishes a documented record of her struggling to provide basic necessities. Point 2, a violent home environment. He literally holds up his hand, which Jinx broke in a previous episode. That is documented physical violence directly connected to Margo's primary residence.
It makes me so mad because Mark abandoned her. He forced her to sign a non-disclosure agreement to protect his career, ignored his child, and now he has the audacity to use her financial struggles against her, struggles he directly caused by refusing to pay child support.
It's deeply hypocritical, but effective in a vacuum.
But the third point he makes is the one that really crosses the line from legal strategy into outright psychological abuse. He attacks her OnlyFans career.
Yes. He explicitly labels her as a sex worker and categorizes what she does as pornography.
Margo tries to defend herself, arguing the nuances, like she isn't having intercourse on camera, she's taking solo nude photos to pay the rent.
But Mark and his lawyer play this strictly to the archaic letters of family law. By definition, media created to cause sexual arousal falls under a highly scrutinized umbrella in these proceedings, especially when morality clauses are unofficially brought into play.
And he doesn't just argue it theoretically. This is the part that made me want to throw my sangria at the television. He brings a printed photograph of Margo, taken from her OnlyFans, with the word boobs written on her chest.
And slaps it down on the sterile mediation table.
It was designed to completely demean and harass her in that professional setting. The mediator makes him put it away, but the psychological damage is already done.
It's sociological warfare. He's throwing out these insidious hypothetical futures to trigger her maternal anxiety. He asks, what happens when Bodhi grows up and his friends use your photos to masturbate?
Or, what kind of dangerous men are you going to bring around the house if this is your profession? He is weaponizing deep-seated societal misogyny and the stigma against sex work to paint her as inherently unsafe.
Regardless of how much she loves her child, he wants her terrified.
The misogyny in that room was suffocating. Margo counters by saying Mark never showed an ounce of interest in being a father before this suit. But you can see Mark's words landing on her.
You can see the fear creeping into her eyes.
Because deep down, every new mother has that terrifying, irrational fear of like, am I ruining my kid? And Mark just took her deepest insecurities, printed them out, and projected them onto a legal document.
It's highly effective emotional destabilization. But while this intense legal chess match is happening inside, the waiting room outside is turning into a literal combat zone.
Oh my God, yes. Because the mediator wouldn't let the grandmothers in, Shyanne and Mark's mother, Elizabeth Gable, are stuck sitting next to each other on these awful, stiff waiting room chairs.
Elizabeth is the quintessential, wealthy, soul-dead matriarch. She operates entirely on superiority and control.
The moment she realizes she isn't allowed to control the narrative inside the mediation, you can almost see the gears turning in her head.
She pivots her strategy to psychological manipulation of the weakest link available. She decides to provoke Shyanne, knowing full well that Shyanne is a hothead with poor impulse control.
She drops the most insane insults I've ever heard on television. She doesn't just insult Shyanne, she goes after Margo's fundamental character.
The phrasing was genuinely shocking.
She tells Shyanne that Margo trapped Mark. She says Margo was, and I quote, because this phrase is seared into my brain forever, waving her snatty-ratty poon muff in my son's face.
A truly jaw-dropping string of syllables.
Snatty-ratty poon muff.
It's the absurdity of elite insults. When wealthy people decide to be vulgar, they create these bizarre, archaic combinations of words that somehow manage to be even more offensive than standard profanity.
It's completely unhinged. And then Elizabeth targets Shyanne directly. She shames Shyanne for her past working as a Hooters waitress and calls Margo a chip off the old snatty-ratty block.
It is a masterclass in class warfare.
And Shyanne, who has spent this entire season trying so hard to keep it together and be the stable grandmother, officially snaps. She stands up, winds up, and punches Elizabeth square in the face.
It's a phenomenally satisfying television moment. The visceral impact of it, the shock value. But as the analytical voice of reason here, I was shouting at the screen.
I was cheering. I wanted to throw a parade for her.
Shyanne just broke a wealthy woman's jaw in the waiting room of a family law mediator.
She defended her daughter against this vile, elitist monster who thinks money gives her the right to verbally abuse working-class women.
I understand the emotional catharsis. I really do. Emotionally, it's a triumph. But legally, it is a catastrophic disaster.
I know.
Think about the timing. Mark is inside that room at that exact second, arguing that Margo comes from a volatile, violent family that is fundamentally unsafe for a developing child. And at that exact moment, Margo's mother is outside committing aggravated assault against the opposing party's grandmother.
Ugh, I know your logic is sound, but I hate it.
Shyanne just handed Mark the smoking gun he needed to prove his entire thesis.
The legal system just punishes raw emotion, and this family is nothing but raw emotion. They don't have the luxury of detached, calculated responses. But the waiting room punch isn't even the darkest part of the episode.
Oh, it is not.
We have to talk about the massive shift in tone and a massive trigger warning for you listening, because we are getting into severe substance abuse and overdose territory here, and the show does not hold back.
It's the moment the entire series shifts its foundational axis. The David E. Kelley influence really shows here, mixing sharp wit with devastating human drama in the span of a single scene transition.
We know Jinx hasn't been allowed at the mediation because of the restraining order. He's at the apartment, and he is deeply, severely depressed. He feels like he is the reason Margo is losing her child.
And Susie, who continues to be the absolute MVP of this show, tries to cheer him up.
She comes in dressed in full cosplay as Shadowheart from the video game Baldur's Gate 3.
Which is such a brilliant, poignant detail for the writers to include. In the lore of Baldur's Gate 3, the character Shadowheart carries a magical artifact that specifically protects the characters from having their minds corrupted and transforming into literal monsters.
I didn't even know that.
Yes. So Susie comes into the room and gently places this glowing prop orb on Jinx's chest. She is metaphorically trying to give him a magical item to protect his mind from the darkness and addiction that is currently corrupting it.
That detail is so beautiful and so devastating, but the orb doesn't work. Real life isn't a video game. Jinx is completely unresponsive.
The scene cuts to later.
Margo comes home from the mediation, already drained, already terrified she's losing Bodhi, and she asks where her dad is. Susie says he's been locked in the bathroom for an hour and the water has been running.
Margo's face instantly changes. She knows.
They break the door down, and it is a nightmare scenario.
It's a brutal, incredibly graphic scene that forces the viewer to confront the ugly reality of relapse. Margo and Susie find Jinx passed out in the bathtub, fully clothed, water running over him, with a heroin needle still visibly sticking out of his arm.
Nick Offerman's acting in this episode, I just don't even have words. It is award-winning caliber.
The physical mechanics of the scene are terrifying.
Margo, who is a very petite 20-year-old, panics and tries to drag her massive, muscular ex-wrestler father out of a slippery, wet ceramic bathtub. She slips, and Jinx's sheer dead weight falls directly on top of her in the rising water.
She is pinned underneath him.
Completely trapped, practically drowning in her own bathtub, while desperately trying to keep his head above water to save him. The claustrophobia of that camera shot, you feel the panic in your chest.
It perfectly illustrates the sheer collateral damage of addiction.
Yeah.
It's never just the addict hurting themselves in isolation. Jinx's physical collapse literally almost crushes his daughter to death.
Thank God Susie is there to essentially deadlift Jinx off of Margo. Margo finally gets out from under him, screams at Susie to start chest compressions, and runs to her bedroom to get Narcan, which she had secretly bought at a pharmacy just in case.
That specific detail is heartbreaking.
The fact that this young single mom is buying Narcan to hide in her bedroom because she knows, deep down in her gut, that her dad is slipping. We find out he had been skimming his prescription pain meds from his back injury, ran out early, and spiraled straight back to heroin to avoid the physical withdrawals.
She plunges the syringe into his leg.
Now, chemically, how does that actually wake him up so fast?
Naloxone is an opioid antagonist. When someone overdoses on an opioid like heroin, the drug binds to receptors in the brain, which dangerously slows down or completely stops breathing.
Right.
Narcan works by aggressively knocking the opioids off those receptors and binding to them instead, immediately reversing their respiratory depression. It throws the person into instant, violent withdrawal, which is why Jinx wakes up gasping and thrashing.
He revives, and the camera pans out to this devastating overhead shot of the three of them. Margo, Susie, and Jinx, exhausted, wet, and traumatized on the bathroom floor.
And all you can hear in the background is baby Bodhi waking up from his nap, screaming his head off in the other room.
That audio cue.
It is vital to the narrative. As much empathy as we have for Jinx, that piercing sound of the crying baby forces the audience to confront the objective reality of the situation. Susie synthesizes it perfectly a few scenes later. She looks at Margo and says, "He got high, in the house, with the baby."
No matter the intent, the environment is fundamentally unsafe for an infant, which leads right into the fallout. They are at the hospital, getting Jinx stabilized, and Lace shows up.
Shyanne was smart enough to call the lawyer, realizing this medical emergency could impact the mediation.
And Lace drops a total mandate. She tells Margo that Mark's legal team has officially ordered a 7:30 evaluation.
For context, a 7:30 evaluation in family court is a comprehensive psychological and home inspection conducted by court-appointed experts. They interview the parents, observe the child, inspect the living conditions, and run background checks on anyone residing in the home.
Lace looks Margo in the eye and delivers the hardest truth. You have to kick Jinx out today, immediately. If the evaluator finds an active heroin addict living feet away from the nursery, you lose custody, full stop.
Margo fights it so hard. She's operating on that deep, codependent desire to fix her father.
She argues that he has nowhere to go, rent is too high in the city, she can't put him on the street after he almost died. But Susie refuses to let Margo prioritize her father over her son. She forces Margo to choose Bodhi.
It is agonizing watching Margo pack his boxes, but this is where Shyanne steps up and demonstrates her own complex growth. She takes Jinx to an outpatient methadone clinic to get him on a monitored treatment plan, and then she moves him into her old apartment.
We have to discuss this apartment because it is the most fascinating character detail for Shyanne.
It really is.
Shyanne is currently married to Kenny. She lives at a beautiful home with Kenny. Yet we discover she has been secretly paying rent out of her own pocket to maintain her old, empty, rent-controlled apartment under the guise of using it for storage.
Let's analyze the psychology versus the economics of this decision. From an economic standpoint, it's a massive drain on resources. She is throwing away thousands of dollars a year on an insurance policy against her own marriage.
True, but
It clearly demonstrates that she doesn't fully trust Kenny, or at the very least, she doesn't trust the universe not to pull the rug out from under her again.
But I fully, 100% support Shyanne keeping a secret backup apartment. That is just trauma-informed real estate. Think about her history. She has been abandoned by Jinx before. She has been dead broke, raising Margo alone on Hooters tips.
I understand the psychological comfort it provides her.
She knows firsthand that men can leave, financial situations can change overnight, and you always need an escape hatch.
It's her ultimate safety net.
Yeah.
It allows her to feel a sense of autonomy within her marriage. But the secrecy is the issue. If Kenny finds out she's been siphoning funds to maintain a shadow residence, it will create the exact marital instability she is trying to protect herself against. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Well, thank God she kept it because Jinx desperately needed it. But things don't even slow down for a second for Margo because we slam right into the climax of the episode.
The ambush.
Margo drives Jinx back to her apartment one last time to pick up his packed boxes. They walk through the front door and they are immediately ambushed.
And it's crucial to note, it's not the scheduled 7:30 court evaluation they were warned about. It's significantly worse. It is 2 agents from Child Protective Services, including a public health nurse.
Just waiting for them.
They are there unannounced because someone made an anonymous tip to a hotline about an unfit environment and suspected drug use.
Margo's face just completely drops. The color drains from her. She tries to stall and call Lace, but Lace doesn't answer.
And unlike a scheduled court evaluation, which produces a report for a judge to review weeks later, CPS has the immediate unilateral power to remove a child from a home on the spot if they deem the danger imminent.
This is where Jinx does the most heartbreaking, selfless thing he's done all season. He instantly assesses the danger his daughter is in, he realizes his presence is the catalyst, and he immediately falls on his sword.
He steps right up to the CPS agents and voluntarily offers the most damaging information about himself possible, specifically to separate his liability from Margo.
He just confesses everything.
He states clearly and on the record, "I am a drug addict. I relapsed yesterday in this apartment, and that is why my things are currently in those boxes by the door, because my daughter has kicked me out and I no longer live here."
He completely sacrifices any shred of his own dignity and opens himself up to legal consequences just to build a firewall around Margo and his grandson. It was so hard to watch, but so necessary.
Then the actual inspection starts, and the tension is excruciating. The female agent, Claudette, goes into Susie's room and starts intensely interrogating her about the professional camera setup, the ring lights, asking what exactly goes on in this apartment.
Meanwhile, Margo is in the nursery changing Bodhi's diaper under the watchful, silent eye of the other agent.
The psychology of that diaper change scene is brilliantly directed. Under normal circumstances, changing a diaper is a mundane, thoughtless task. She notices Bodhi as a minor, totally normal diaper rash.
But under the intense gaze of a government agent evaluating her fundamental fitness as a mother, that tiny rash becomes a neon sign of perceived neglect in Margo's mind. She starts frantically over-explaining everything.
She is performing sanity.
She's holding up the butt paste, reciting the ingredients, explaining the brand of diapers she uses, talking a mile a minute out of pure, unadulterated terror. She is smiling so big and doing baby talk for Bodhi while her eyes are just screaming with panic, begging this woman not to take her baby.
It's the terror of the surveillance state entering your most private space. The agents finally finish their sweep. They all reconvene in the living room, and Claudette delivers the cliffhanger that had me staring at the screen in disbelief.
The ultimate trap.
She looks at Margo, Susie, and Jinx and says, "The physical environment looks fine, but before we leave, we require a urine sample from every adult present in the home."
My jaw unhinged. Jinx immediately protests, logically arguing that he just established he no longer lives there, his boxes are packed, he is just visiting to retrieve his belongings.
But Claudette is entirely dispassionate. She represents the unyielding bureaucracy of the system, its protocol. If you are physically present during the inspection of a suspected drug environment, you provide a sample. No exceptions.
Jinx angrily grabs the plastic cup, knowing exactly what the result will be since he used heroin less than 24 hours ago, and that is where the screen cuts to black.
A phenomenal cliffhanger.
The scream I let out, which brings us to our final, most important analysis of the recap. We need to put on our conspiracy hats. Who called CPS?
This is the million-dollar question driving all the online discourse right now. The tip was explicitly stated to be anonymous.
The immediate obvious answer is Mark. Everyone in the apartment instantly assumes it's Mark. He wants custody. He knows Jinx is a liability, so he calls CPS to build an undeniable paper trail of drug use against Margo.
But if we apply critical thinking and look at the legal strategy, Mark calling CPS doesn't entirely track.
Wait, why not?
Think about the mechanics of family law. If CPS removes Bodhi from Margo's care due to an emergency, Bodhi doesn't automatically go to Mark. Bodhi goes into the foster care system while the state investigates. The state takes jurisdiction.
Wait, really? He wouldn't just get the baby?
Not immediately, no. The state has to vet the other parent first. That complicates Mark's own custody battle immensely. The state would start investigating his home, his background, his recent firing, his affair with his student.
Oh, wow.
It introduces a massive, uncontrollable government variable into a legal fight he was already winning through private mediation. Mark wants a clean, quiet transfer of custody, not aggressive government intervention that puts a spotlight on his own flaws.
Oh my God, you are right. Which brings us to the Reddit theories that have been keeping me awake at night. What if the anonymous tip came from Kenny?
The Kenny theory. It's incredibly compelling when you analyze the character's behavioral patterns.
Think about it. Kenny is Cheyenne's new husband. He is deeply religious, very conservative. He's this quiet, supportive stepdad who just hovers in the background, observing everything but rarely speaking.
He drove Shyanne to the police station after she punched Elizabeth.
He was standing quietly in the corner of the hospital room after Jinx's overdose. He sees absolutely everything, but he processes it internally.
Let's look at his motives.
Yeah.
Kenny knows about Margo's OnlyFans career, which fundamentally conflicts with his religious worldview regarding modesty and motherhood. He sees the constant draining chaos that Shyanne is dragged into because of her daughter.
He wants a quote-unquote proper family.
Most importantly, he sees Jinx, his wife's ex-husband, who she is still deeply entangled with emotionally, as a violent, drug-addicted parasite.
What if Kenny made the anonymous tips specifically to force a crisis? He knows that if CPS shows up, Jinx will be immediately ejected from the family dynamic. He might even think he is genuinely doing the right thing, guided by his faith, to save baby Bodhi from a sinful, dangerous environment.
It's the classic righteous savior complex. He doesn't necessarily want Margo to lose her baby permanently. He wants to forcibly sanitize her living situation. By calling CPS, he unilaterally eliminates Jinx from the equation.
And he puts the fear of God into Margo regarding her sex work.
He attempts to stabilize his own wife's life by removing the chaotic elements. It's a chillingly plausible theory because it comes from a twisted place of care.
I am spiraling over the betrayal of it all. Imagine Shyanne finding out that her stable, boring, reliable husband was the one who called the government on her daughter. The drama of season 2 is already writing itself. The familial treason would be unforgivable.
It perfectly sets up the conflicts for the finale. It shifts the antagonist from the obvious villain Mark to the insidious threat inside their own inner circle.
We only have one episode left, and I am not emotionally prepared. But before we wrap up today's breakdown, we have to get into our rapid-fire segments. Let's pivot to segment 1, most financially delusional.
Out of everyone in this episode who is making the absolute worst money decisions.
It's a highly competitive category this week. We have Shyanne paying double rent for an empty apartment purely for psychological comfort.
We have Margo, who stubbornly refused to accept the immense financial weight of a legal battle, naively thinking she could just ignore a lawsuit from a wealthy family.
But I have to give the crown to Mark. Mark is burning through tens of thousands of dollars in exorbitant legal fees to fight for full custody of a kid he ignored for months.
And why?
Not because he suddenly developed a paternal instinct, but because his mommy's country club friends might gossip about him having a child with an OnlyFans creator. He is weaponizing his trust fund to protect his fragile, bruised ego. That is the peak of financial delusion.
A fair and accurate assessment. Spending capital out of spite rather than necessity is the ultimate misuse of wealth, which transitions us perfectly into segment 2, rich person red flags.
Let's analyze Elizabeth Gable and Mark. What are the biggest indicators that they have too much money and zero soul?
Oh, the biggest red flag is how casually they use the legal system as a weapon of terror. When normal people have a disagreement, they argue. When Elizabeth Gable has a disagreement, she funds a $50,000 legal siege.
They use attorneys the way the rest of us use text messages?
Exactly. It's the strategy of weaponized attrition. They know Margo doesn't have the financial runway to fight a protracted battle, so their entire game plan is to bleed her dry until she is forced to surrender by default.
It's not about seeking justice or what's best for the child.
It's simply about outspending the opposition. It's a glaring red flag that their empathy has been entirely replaced by their net worth. They view people as obstacles to be bought out or crushed.
It is sickening. But it also leads to segment 3, which is much lighter, thank God. What would we overspend on?
If we woke up tomorrow with Elizabeth Gable levels of generational wealth, what is the most unhinged, ridiculous luxury item you would waste money on?
You go first.
Oh, without question, I would outsource my petty grievances. I would hire a full-time salaried employee, complete with a 401k and full dental benefits, whose sole job description is to argue with people on the internet on my behalf.
Wait, really?
If someone leaves a mildly irritating comment on a video or disputes a mundane fact on a forum, my proxy engages them in a grueling, multi-day debate, using rigorously cited sources, while I sit back, entirely detached, and drink sparkling water.
That is so deeply analytical, so specific, and so incredibly toxic. I love it. For me, I'm going purely for aesthetic luxury. I want a temperature-controlled, multi-tiered sangria fountain installed in the dead center of my living room.
A permanent sangria fountain is a structural and hygienic nightmare for your flooring and pest control.
I don't care. I want it flowing 24 hours a day. I want different spigots for red, white, and rosé. I want to wake up, grab a crystal chalice, and just hold it into the fountain like I'm at a high-end Roman bacchanal.
I respect the grandeur of the vision, even if it attracts fruit flies. Finally, segment 4. Who would survive being broke?
Let's rank the characters based on their ability to actually survive a normal, grueling, working-class existence. Number 1 is Susie, without a shadow of a doubt.
Agreed. Susie takes the top spot for sheer adaptability.
She is immensely resourceful. She sews her own intricate cosplay outfits. She babysits. She manages the tech for Margo's business. She is fiercely loyal. She is a ride-or-die friend. Susie could survive a post-apocalyptic wasteland with a roll of duct tape and a good attitude.
Number 2 has to be Shyanne. She has the service industry hustle permanently ingrained in her DNA. She knows how to survive on fluctuating tips. She knows how to read people and manipulate situations. And as we saw in the waiting room, she is not afraid to resort to physical force if the environment demands it. She is a survivor.
Margo is somewhere in the middle. She is learning the hustle. She's trying to build a business, but she still has that naive streak that gets her into trouble.
And then, in dead last place, buried under a pile of useless monogram towels, are Mark and Elizabeth.
If you stripped them of their trust funds, seized their assets, and dropped them in a minimum wage retail shift during the holiday rush, they would vaporize within the hour.
They completely lack the fundamental coping mechanisms required to navigate the world without a financial buffer. They're completely, helplessly dependent on their wealth to mediate their reality.
They wouldn't last 10 minutes dealing with a screaming customer at a cash register. Well, we have survived the freezing May weather, we have survived the emotional roller coaster of Jinx's relapse, and we have survived Mark's absolute garbage personality.
Thank you for hanging out and unpacking this chaos with us today. The analysis doesn't stop here, though.
No, it doesn't. The data set is incomplete without your direct input. We need you to weigh in. You have homework. Head to the comments and tell us. Number 1, are you Team Italian or Team Mexican food for tonight's dinner debate?
Number 2, what is your absolute favorite elite comfort snack when you are stressed?
Number 3, which of the listener confessions from the top of the show was the wildest, shady, snarky, or stupid? And most importantly, who do you think called CPS on Margo? Are you buying the Kenny theory, or are we giving Mark too much credit?
The comment section is going to be a fascinating psychological study, and I will be reading every single entry with a critical eye.
Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss a moment with us. We are obsessed with you. Remember to stay messy, stay expensive, and we will see you on the Snark side.